We condemn Russia's continuing and intensifying attacks on Ukraine's energy facilities and other civilian infrastructure. These attacks make a mockery of the cause of peace, a cause of paramount importance to the world and to President Trump.
Russia deliberately waited until early January, when temperatures in Ukraine plunged to minus 15 degrees Celsius, to unleash some of its most devastating drone and missile strikes against our energy infrastructure, pushing millions of civilians to the very edge of freezing.
Suddenly, the European Commission started talking about the fact that at some stage the EU will have to conduct a dialogue with Russia. I just want to ask you, where were you all this time? We never refused to engage in a conversation. But you once again arrogantly believed that things would not escalate to this, because Russia would be dealt a strategic defeat as long as the Kyiv regime's leader does not come to his senses and refuses to agree to realistic terms for any negotiations. Until that point, we shall be resolving these issues through military means. He was warned in his own time, conditions for negotiations for him will only worsen with each passing day, and every vile attack on peaceful Russian citizens will be met with a harsh response.
As temperatures plummet far below freezing, the Russian Federation has intensified its systematic attacks targeting Ukraine's energy infrastructure. The strikes have killed and injured scores of civilians and deprived millions of Ukrainians of electricity, heating, and water for prolonged periods. In total, since the start of the Russian Federation's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights has verified that at least 14,999 civilians have been killed, including 763 children.
As the escalation of hostilities in Ukraine soon enters its fifth year, 10.8 million people in Ukraine urgently need humanitarian assistance. Tomorrow, that's Tuesday, the 13th of January, the United Nations and our partners, in consultation with the government of Ukraine, will launch the 2026 Humanitarian Needs and Response Plan, which seeks $2.31 billion to deliver life-saving assistance to 4.12 million people facing the most severe needs.
We need dialogue, not confrontation. No matter how big the conflict, how deep the contradiction, ultimately we must return to the path of dialogue and negotiation.
The current momentum for this new round of peace talks is truly hard-won, and all parties should cherish it.
We call on the parties concerned to meet each other halfway, to continuously build consensus, to attach importance to and properly address their mutual security concerns, and to achieve comprehensive peace as soon as possible. Only then will there be more hope. The international community must raise its voice, offering more objective, balanced, and rational perspectives to help bring about the early realization of a lasting peace. The crisis's impact continues to spill over, already causing severe shock to the global economy. China opposes any party abusing the crisis to impose illegal, unilateral sanctions, suppressing normal economic and trade exchanges, or seizing the opportunity to divide the world and form exclusive blocs.
Just days ago, U.S. diplomats met with EU and Ukrainian counterparts to advance negotiations toward a lasting peace. Thanks to the leadership of President Trump, we are closer to a deal now than at any point since the war began. Despite this, Russia launched more attacks on Ukraine, including its launch of its nuclear-capable Orishnik ballistic missile, targeting an area of Ukraine close to the border with Poland and NATO. This constitutes another dangerous and inexplicable escalation of this war, even as the United States is urgently working with Kyiv, other partners, and Moscow to end the war through a negotiated settlement. At a moment of tremendous potential, due only to President Trump's unparalleled commitment to peace around the world, both sides should be seeking ways to de-escalate. We condemn Russia's continuing and intensifying attacks on Ukraine's energy facilities and other civilian infrastructure. These attacks make a mockery of the cause of peace, a cause of paramount importance to the world and to President Trump.
The Democratic Republic of Congo remains convinced that there can be no sustainable military solutions to this protracted conflict, which today finds itself in a clear deadlock whose main consequence remains the heavy toll paid day after day by civilian populations. In this regard, my country commends the diplomatic and mediation efforts undertaken by international partners, particularly the meetings initiated in December by the United States, which aim to foster dialogue and create conditions for a gradual de-escalation of tensions.
The Russian army carried out one massive and four-group strikes between the 3rd and 9th of January. These strikes hit facilities of transport, airfield, port, and also energy infrastructure, which ensure the operations of Ukraine's military-industrial complex, as well as temporary deployment locations for the armed forces of Ukraine and foreign mercenaries. This occurred as a direct response to the Kyiv regime's recent attack on the official residence of the President of Russia and various civilian infrastructure facilities across our country. The Orshnik system was used in a strike, for which there are no air defense countermeasures. Our Western colleagues are lecturing us about civilian casualties, a significant portion of which, as is widely known, even among Ukrainians themselves, is a direct consequence of the actions of Ukrainian air defense systems. Suddenly, the European Commission started talking about the fact that at some stage the EU will have to engage in dialogue with Russia. It makes me want to ask, where were you all this time? We never, not once, closed ourselves off from a dialogue, but you once again arrogantly believed that this situation would never come to pass, because Russia was supposed to suffer a strategic defeat. Until the Kyiv regime's leader regains his senses and accepts realistic conditions for negotiations, we will continue to address these problems through military methods. He was warned about it even in his own time. The conditions for his negotiations will only worsen with each passing day, and every vile attack on peaceful Russian citizens will be met with a harsh response.
Russia deliberately waited until early January, when temperatures in Ukraine plunged to minus 15 degrees Celsius, to unleash some of its most devastating drone and missile strikes against our energy infrastructure, pushing millions of civilians to the very edge of freezing. During the night of January 9th, Russia not only launched one of the deadliest strikes of missiles and drones against Ukrainian cities. For the second time, Russia employed the so-called Oreshnik, an intermediate-range hypersonic ballistic missile system, against my native region of Lviv, situated just a few dozen kilometers from the EU and NATO border. Since this weapon can carry a nuclear payload, such a blatant attack represents a clear threat to the security of the European continent. It is Russia that finds itself in a Zugzwang. Mr. President, let me reiterate, Ukraine will continue to seek peace, a comprehensive, just and lasting peace, based on international law and grounded in the principles of the Charter. Ukraine remains fully committed to the peace process initiated by US President Donald Trump. I would first of all appeal to our allies and partners who have been strongly helping Ukraine. All the available air defense systems and missiles in stockpiles must be transferred immediately to protect civilians and energy infrastructure from Russian bombs. We also need long-range weapons to neutralize future attacks. We call upon our allies to introduce additional sanctions and increase economic pressure on Russia